But how do I get it to where I can get it? Okay, first of all, like I said, I have 6 more months to file or it gets dismissed with prejudice. I don't have enough to continue all the way. I can get it filed, but I know it's gonna cost more than that. Now, granted, as I'm going, working and I have income, everything, I put a lot of my own money in this. I can get it filed.
Okay, so I guess as the responsible goblin that I am obligated to talk about the katiejoy versus Steve McRae lawsuit. I'll start with what this is, where it's at, then we'll talk about what that means. For those of you who don't know what any of this is about, Too Long Didn't Read, is Steve McRae is a YouTuber who worked with katiejoy, who is also a YouTuber. They had a falling out, she accused him of some horrible shit, and they've been going back and forth ever since, circa 2019. Steve indicated that he planned on suing katiejoy for defamation and opened a GoFundMe to assist in the cost that he estimated at about $40,000. The reason why I'm updating this is because at the time this GoFundMe launched in October of 2021, I was running PR and such for Steve, without pay apparently, and was under the impression that the direction he was taking it in my words, was go big or go home, follow through, or drop it, which is what the still active GoFundMe currently says. So, where's it at now? It's fucking nothing! That's right, the time for Steve to have filed has expired. He did not file his case and has not followed through. Here's the latest update on that currently active GoFundMe, though donations are disabled for now. Hashtag Without a Crystal Ball is still suing me, and I have posted all receipts that every dime raised in this GoFundMe has gone to legal fees, which was less than half of what I spent out of pocket. Thank you all that have supported, and I am continuing alternative ways legally to get justice. Now, what does all of this mean? Well, if we look at what the GoFundMe says, quote, well, I have some funding available, and I am starting a new job next week to pay for legal expenses. It will probably be a few months at least until I'm able to file in state court my complaint. I have already spent over $8,000 of my own personal funds thus far to get this case in written complaint, pocket service, and to respond to her frivolous countersuit. But I do expect to not just win punitive damages, but full legal costs as well. All funding will go to legal costs, transportation, filings, mailings, and or any other use I deem required to obtain justice and fair compensation. Receipts for legal fees will be posted to show all funding goes to cover legal fees and are not loans, but finding to seek resolution with this court case. End quote. To date, Steve has not offered anyone any refunds on their donations, and when someone requested one, in fact, the opposite happened. Let's look at this real quick. Here you can see the request being made and ignored. Here you can see the response on Twitter accusing the person, Manya, who you may know from Dumbfeck Friday, of credit card fraud and defrauding GoFundMe. Here you can see that he has continued these accusations since March 16th to date. There is one other minor, teeny tiny problem. Here are the updates on GoFundMe. That's right, the updates only started in response to Manya, March 19th of 2022. And all but two predate the GoFundMe. What does that mean? Well, it means that they are included in the money he already spent, not the money he was asking for in regards to, quote, all funding will go to legal costs, transportation, filings, mailings, and or any other use I deem required to obtain justice and fair compensation, but finding to seek resolution with the court case. The receipts for that add up to $450, $225, for a grand total of $675 out of $4,205. That math means he spent 16% of the money he received from that GoFundMe for legal costs, transportation, filings, mailings, and or other uses that he deems required to obtain justice and fair compensation. You might be watching this and think, oh, but he said other uses. Look at that bit and why it doesn't fly here. Quote, other uses I deem required to obtain justice and fair compensation to seek resolution with the court case. There is the problem. He didn't file, so he can't obtain justice or fair compensation or seek resolution in a case that doesn't and cannot exist.
Okay, first of all, like I said, I have 6 more months to file or it gets dismissed with prejudice.
I'm continuing alternative ways legally to get justice, but doesn't say what those ways are and provides no receipts as to what that means. Does that mean he's giving $3,500 to someone else's lawsuit against Katie? And where are the receipts to that since his time to file has expired? Plus, how is he going to get fair compensation from someone else's lawsuit? If that even were the case. Maybe he does have some kind of plan that makes sense. I don't know, he hasn't updated with that or posted receipts as promised. He can't go by her countersuit because she can't counter something that doesn't and cannot exist. It's one thing to hide your legal strategy. It's another thing to not update people when you let things expire and have zero legal recourse.
Steve! Am I dead yet?
Anyway, if you donated to this GoFundMe because I brought it up, you have my apologies. If you would like to get your money back from this GoFundMe that absolutely ought to be dissolved and should have been the day of expiry, if not sooner, you could attempt to go through Steve, though you've already seen what happens if you try that route, so that would be at your own discretion. Otherwise, you can go through GoFundMe by going through the GoFundMe guarantee. I know of at least 2 people who have gotten their money back through this method. Again, my apologies and sorry for the long update, but I felt responsible since I promoted it at the time, and it would only be responsible of me to let you guys know what had happened to it and what you can do if you want your money back. If you don't, hey, that's up to you. Links in the description below. You can find more details and info about what went down with the screenshots of between Manya and Steve at the time by checking out Manya's video over on her channel, also linked below. The internet is a dangerous place. Stay safe, everyone. Yeah. I would suspect that Steve actually used or is using the money to reimburse himself for the money he had already spent, and I already hear the argument he will present and to try to make that sound acceptable. Well, I already paid so much of my own money in legal fees that I used the money to offset those costs, so it was still spent on legal fees of this case, and it didn't even cover that. That's not what any of this GoFundMe says, and you said you were all in, that you were getting additional work, that you could get loans to pay for fees in addition to what the GoFundMe was able to provide. Hell, you even had to edit this GoFundMe. None of this, nor what you presented, says anything about reimbursing fees you already accrued.
I can get it filed.
Get fucked!
Nice try, though.